Copland was an unforgettable man in both appearance and personality. He was an even-tempered man, and he had a look that you just couldn't forget. Copland looked older than his years, and he stood about 6 feet tall. He definitely had a striking appearance, not necessarily one of beauty, but a face that you would remember. He himself felt that he was an ugly duckling. Howard Pollack, in his book, The Life and Work of an Uncommon Man, suggests that he dressed very modestly, that Copland wore khakis and just everyday clothes. And Copland himself was noted as saying that while he enjoyed extravagance, he abhorred waste. Aaron Copland was brought up Jewish, and while he was of Jewish descent, he didn't really practice his religion. His music didn't reflect his religion, and most people refer to him as a secular humanist. And Copland was deeply entrenched in musical society throughout the 20th century. He interacted with most of the major figures of composition, music, production, conducting. Copland was an avid letter writer, and he even has a book published of his memoirs of letters that he wrote to several significant people in his life and in American history. When he went back to write his memoirs, he actually wrote letters or called people and asked them to send him copies of the letters that he had sent them earlier in his life. And a lot of people sent the originals, others sent photocopies, even with added remarks. And it's neat to see the glimpse into his life that those letters present us with. Copland was born in 1900, and from the years 1909 to 1924, he spent time studying in both New York and in France. While in France, he studied with Reuben Goldmark, who was a student of Anton Dvorak. And so it's kind of neat to see the musical lineage going from composer to composer and people who are studying music. And it's neat to see influences. I remember hearing Dvorak's New World, and it's neat to note that Copland was also interested in expressing the music of the Americas. Copland definitely had his own ideas about composing and what to do with a score. I read a quote of his where he discussed why he thinks it's important to set your music to the piano staff first, and how it's important to not limit yourself to the musical sounds you're hearing right away. And by setting the music to a piano staff, then you have more options for scoring orchestrally later on. I also read somewhere that sometimes he would write the end to his piece before he finished writing the entire piece. And other composers said they couldn't possibly write the end first. How could you write the end first? But it's a unique concept. You know, everybody has their own way of writing music. And if you write the end, I do that sometimes when I'm writing papers or writing stories. You write the end first and you come back from there. So it's neat to know that different people do compose in different ways. Another quote that Copland made was, "I don't compose, I assemble materials." And I think that speaks to all musicians, because we all have outside influences, and those influences come across when we create our music. And I think a lot of people think that they're creating something completely new, and while they do have those influences. And some people actually transcribe older music, and so that is carrying forth an earlier music, which is also a very important work. Upon returning to New York City in 1924, after 3 years of study in France, after the war, Copland decided that he would devote himself to writing music that was uniquely American. In his book, he suggests that there's no shortcut to creating musical appreciation, but what he as a composer can do is break down the essential elements and help the reader of his book and listener of music to identify those key concepts and really see how the music works. And in seeing how it's put together, seeing how it works, that can help the listener truly understand and appreciate the music at a deeper level. Copland's life stretched from the 1900s to 1990. He had a long life and he saw many things, and it's neat to note the evolution of his music from when he first started writing all the way until the end, when he was focused more on conducting than composing music. And he really did write music even late in his career, and some of his more famous pieces he wrote even later in his career as well. But he also devoted himself to conducting music and the art of teaching music appreciation through his book, What to Listen For in Music.